Back into recess, and Dr. Opie, you're recognized.
Bruce Opie with the Tennessee Department of Education. I'll try to be as brief as I can. When this General Assembly passed the Education Improvement Act of 1992 along with the BEP, it also required that the department would develop a series of end-of-course tests, and we would also revamp, if you will, our testing program for the elementary grades. Before that, we used, or the state used, the Stanford Achievement Test. In an open bidding process, the elementary test began using the vendor McGraw-Hill, and it did start out as a norm reference test, or a test that was developed off of a national sample, because that was to feed the value-added system, which was also a part of the EIA, the TVAS system. In 1998, the State Board of Education finally approved a series of end-of-course tests. The Education Oversight Committee approved what they determined. They had 10 end-of-course tests, 3 of which they carved out and called gateway tests. These 3 gateway tests were Algebra 1, sophomore level English, and biology. The difference between the end-of-course tests in American history and physics and some of the other courses was that for those 3 gateway tests, not only did you have to pass the course, the Algebra 1 course, you also had to pass the Algebra 1 test as a part of your graduation requirement. Just this year, the State Board of Education has looked at their whole assessment policy for high school and determined that instead of having the 3 gateway tests as separate and apart, and you have to pass both the test and the course, that we would go back with the 10 end-of-course tests and make a percentage of what a student scored on those tests as a part of their overall grade, and that would be the graduation requirements. No Child Left Behind forced us to change our elementary testing program from a norm-referenced program, which we had had in the past, to a criterion-based. And basically a criterion-based test is one just like a teacher test. The teacher gives 2 weeks of content, of material, and then the students take a test based on what the teacher has developed. The criterion reference tests we transitioned to that because No Child Left Behind required that each state would develop tests based on not a national norming process, but their own state standards. The idea was to have that in place, but then use the NAEP, the National Assessment of Education Progress, administered at a national level, to take the pulse in each state to see how we were doing compared with other states. So that's the balance there. So that is a little bit of a background as to where we are right this minute. If I'm not mistaken, it's for this year's 7th graders that these new requirements will take place. We wouldn't drop this on students that are presently in high school because you don't change the rules of the game while they're in their high school career. So this will phase in for those that are in the 7th grade. So there will still be the end-of-course tests. They will be administered at the state level for all public schools, and Category 1 and Category 3 private schools that choose to participate, and those homeschool students that homeschool through their local education agencies as opposed to those that homeschool through the church-related. So is that?
Dr. Opie, for the record, you work for the
I'm with the Tennessee Department of Education.
And Chairman Winningham, you have a question? Any more questions for Dr. Opie? I didn't mean to cut you off, Dr. Opie.
No problem, I'm through.
Sure. You're recognized, Dr. Brown.
Thank you. I guess I talked about having robbed those young people of their future who went through the process and they were not able to. And we've had many discussions, ladies and gentlemen, in this committee over and over about the gateway test and the problems that we had with it. And it seems that we're beginning to try to address that. But I think, though, what we have to see and understand and appreciate is with the this past year, with some leadership from the governor, we were able to go in and put an infrastructure under what was the 7th the 8th and 9th and grade, they also will have access to ACT, SAT types of resources that will follow them on through to the 12th grade. And that should assist us in overcoming some of the disparity that we have been finding within our school system. So we're enriching the educational system. And I suspect my goal and my prayer would be that the day will come when you will not want to homeschool. You will find a school system that you will, in Tennessee, that you will be very proud of, and that will counter anything anywhere in the nation. Because I believe that those of you in the Department of Education and this legislature, that is our mission and our goal, is to make sure that we bring to every citizen in the state of Tennessee quality education. Because without that, they cannot have a high quality life. Thank you.
And Dr. Brown, we thank you for sponsoring that legislation last year.
Thank you, Dr. Opie. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Without objection,